Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Dr. Will Show. I'm your host, Dr. Will, and this is the first show of the new year. And I am here with Dr. Fast, y'all.
Happy to be here.
Awesome, awesome. Now, we will be talking about it's all about the mission. Like she wrote this book, and it takes an angle from education that we normally don't see in this era of reform, reform, reform. So for those who are watching the show and they may not know who you are, Dr. Fast, will you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. My name is Amy Fast, and I am a first-year assistant principal at McMinnville High School in McMinnville, Oregon, and I have been in the field of education for 15 years now, 10 years as a teacher, 4 as an instructional coach, and this year as an assistant principal. And like you mentioned, I recently published a book called It's the Mission, Not the Mandates, which was actually originally my dissertation for my doctoral program. And now I'm here talking to you. So I'm excited to be here.
Wow, and that's cool. And I see how you uh, turned, that whole dissertation into a book. I thought about it, but I'm one of those people that when I was done with it, I needed a divorce from it.
Yeah,
You know,
I hear what you're saying. I've heard that the best dissertation is a finished dissertation. So I'm one of those people that I could more easily write 250 pages that I'm passionate about than 20 pages that I don't care about. So I was lucky to have a dissertation chair that encouraged me to write what I was passionate about and not follow
mhm.
the traditional route. So
I hear you. I hear you. I love my topic too, but you've gone through the process. I'm gonna throw this out there, and I know I'm off track, but
that's all right.
when you're writing your dissertation, you think you're smart. You think you know what I'm saying. You think you know how to write until you write those 30, 40 pages. You're like, this is some hot stuff, and then you turn it in, and then they go,
Right.
have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? I mean,
Right.
with the revisions you do, like I was so tired, I wrote chapter 5 in a day and a half. Now that's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah, no, you're
And
fried. You're fried.
and
Yeah.
she got it. She said, "Will, I'm gonna need you to take your time on this." And I was
Yep.
like,
It's
"I need
par
this
for the
out.
course. It's par for the course.
Well, I
Yeah.
need this out of my life. I need this out of my life." So so that's how I go. All right, people. So we've been off track. So let's get back
All right.
to the topic. Don't want to scare people off the dissertation either.
No,
It's a
no, no.
it's a great experience. Uh, so let's talk about your book. It's the mission, not the mandate. What was the pain point for writing the book?
Well, I don't want to make it sound like it was easy because it wasn't, but in some ways it felt like it kind of wrote itself because these thoughts have been brewing in my mind for 15 years. And they really kind of took hold when I was an instructional coach and was in hundreds of classrooms over the last 4 years, observing teachers and students and having really like one-on-one conversations with teachers about how they were feeling and what they were trying in their classrooms. And what I realized is that the majority of teachers I worked with, who are all fantastic teachers, by the way, were feeling this level of demoralization that was disheartening to me. And it's really hard to have teachers and students reach their full potential when they aren't feeling like the work they're putting in is reaping the benefits they're hoping for. So I started looking at, what is really going to give us our biggest bang for our buck when it comes to students and society. And I kept asking more and more questions and taking steps back. And I realized, is what we're doing in schools really what's most important to do in schools? And that's where I kind of formulated this question of what is the greatest purpose of schools, and it seems like it would be easy to answer, but there's no really clear answer out there, and so that's what was the impetus for all the research I did.
Mm. So I want to dig deeper into purpose and why it's
Yes,
important for schools and school districts to move beyond the latest fad or federal mandate.
sure. It's To me, it's not so much moving beyond the mandates, but starting at the right starting point. I think too often in education, we're crunched for time, so we look for a silver bullet, a quick fix for an issue that we're dealing with, and we don't stop to say, what is our greatest need? What is our greatest need in society? What is students' greatest needs? So for me, the question of purpose comes back to I don't know if you've heard of Daniel Pink's book Drive before,
Mm-hmm.
but I
Mm-hmm.
read that and I read Simon Sinek's Start With Why. And what was uncovered through reading those books was that really intrinsic motivation is the key to success in life, success in business. And people have three basic will drivers. So autonomy is one, mastery is one, and purpose is one. And if those will drivers are not fueled, then we aren't reaching our full potential. And then I also read Simon Sinek Start With Why, and he said people don't buy what you do, but they buy why you do it. So when we're looking at those ideas through the lens of public education, if we have teachers that we're trying to get to buy into our latest mandates or our latest reform or our latest initiative, if they don't understand, first of all, why they should buy into it in the first place, or what it is that we're trying to accomplish at a student level or at a societal level, then we're not going to tap into their motivation. And when we don't tap into our staff, our faculty's motivation, we're not tapping into their fullest potential. And so um, uh, the focus on purpose was that there's really no greater endeavor than public education, than educating our future generations. And so if there's no more task more important, then we want to ensure that the people that are working toward that mission are working at their full potential. And if we want to ensure that the people are working at their full potential, then we need to be tapping into their will drivers. And I realized that we're not really doing a great job in public education in terms of leading with purpose and really getting people inspired by the mission. There's this line that Simon Sinek says in his book that says, Martin Luther King Jr. didn't give the "I have a plan" speech. He gave the "I have a dream" speech, because that's what really inspires people, is that shared, noble, transparent mission that everyone can kind of bite into and get excited about. And that's something that I think we're missing in public education right now.
Mm. Okay, so now there's buzzwords out there, and I've used them myself. Like one-to-one and blended learning and standards-based learning. And
Mm-hmm.
we are even at the point of debating the need for Common Core
Sure.
and what it means to be college and career readiness. What do you see as the priorities for public education?
That's a really loaded question, and something I try to uncover in my book. Um, I I read somewhere that the activation of internal drive is the most important thing we can do in the world. And so I figure if it's the most important thing we can do in the world to activate people's internal drive, then it's certainly the most important thing we can do in education. So I see success in public education as this triple Venn diagram, if you will. So one circle is academic achievement, and that's primarily where we've sat since A Nation at Risk came out. Is this if we can fulfill academic achievement, if we can be successful in this sphere, then we will achieve success in society and students will reach their full potential. But really, I see it as a triple event. So you have academic achievement, and you have students' internal drive, and then you have their soft skills as another bubble. Because you can have academically proficient students and not have them passionate, which isn't going to do us a lot of good. Or you can have academically proficient students and not have them with the social skills that will help them in the workforce, which also isn't going to do us much good. So it's kind of this merging of all three spheres. And I think we're doing a better job of getting to that soft skills sphere. Like, we're looking at the soft sciences, we're looking at growth mindset, we're looking at various ways to help students become better people, if you will. We're not spending a whole lot of time in the internal drive sphere. We're not spending a lot of time figuring out how to help students become passionate and figure out what their purpose is in life and get excited about it. So I think that's an area that we can focus on. I also think that, I've sat in a lot of classrooms over the last 4 years, hundreds of classrooms, and we really badly want to make solid teaching and learning into a science that we can replicate. And unfortunately, I don't think it's that simple. I think there is an art to teaching and learning. And what I've noticed about the best teachers is that they are able to embrace paradox. So they can simultaneously have high expectations and empathy. They can teach with joy and rigor. They can allow students to be uncomfortable while having them also feel safe at the same time. So there's this kind of like magical teaching where where you can embrace both ends of the paradox at once. And unfortunately, you're not going to be able to encapsulate that in some kind of initiative or some kind of buzzword that you rolled out. So uh, really good teaching and learning is a complex endeavor, and I think that we need to recognize that and honor that, to do the to honor the profession actually, and to treat it as the complex endeavor that it actually is.
Mm. So as we look at educational missions and we look at schools and what they're trying to do to meet societal needs and values, and we look at the economic realities of this digital economy, how does that all, actually come together? How do you serve what you say is your mission for students, but still sort of
Right.
honoring what societal views are, while still preparing them for the economic realities of the digital world we live in?
Sure. And as I was writing, I was kind of uncovering this research as I went, and I was really nervous that I would get to the end of my book and realize it's not possible. And what was exciting to me is that um, that all of our various um, desires from public education are really, they really stem from the same kind of foundation. They're really interdependent. So, historically speaking, the pendulum has kind of swung in public education from this kind of student centeredness to society centered, or economic need centered, right? So we go kind of back and forth. Um, and as if those things are mutually exclusive. So what's best for the student is not best for society, and vice versa. But really, they're kind of interdependent. And we also oversimplify. Like, if we have these economic needs, so like let's say in the STEM industries, well, if we just get our students to be proficient at the STEM subjects, then we will fulfill these societal needs. And it's not that simple, because there's this interplay between our economic needs and our social needs as well. If you look at the CAOs or the businessmen in Silicon Valley, you would assume that maybe they have advanced degrees in the STEM fields. But the reality is, most of them have degrees in the humanities or arts. So it's not that they have this level of academics that others don't have, that is creating all of this economic growth. Rather, it's not that they have advanced technology skills or advanced mathematical skills. It's that they have advanced passion and advanced creativity. I mean, that's the commonality of these businesses that are just really pushing our economy forward. So I think we need to dig a little further and not make such simplistic leaps in terms of, here's our need, here's what we do about it. We need to dive into what is really foundational to success, what is really foundational to economic growth. And I think we'll find it's not necessarily subject specific, but passion specific.
Okay, so now I want to talk about your belief in how we need to move away from reform and start moving towards a revolution. What do you mean, and how do we get there in this current political climate?
That's a really it's a really hard question to answer. I'm sure that most people who are interested in education have listened to Sir Ken Robinson, and he's kind of said the same thing, that we need to look at reform. Um, and when I think about reform rather than revolution rather than reform, um, I think it's just too easy when you don't start from scratch to just do things the way they've always been done, because they've always been done that way. And so I'm not saying that everything about public education is wrong, but I'm saying that what we do as teachers when we employ the backward design model, like, what is it that where is the endpoint that I want students get to, and then how do I get there? Moving backwards from that endpoint, we need to do the same thing with public education. Like, what is our purpose of public education? What is the end goal for students? What is the end goal for society? And let's move backward from that point to figure out what we need to do. How do we need to set up our systems and structures in order to best facilitate students' growth toward that endpoint? I just think that we need to, like, let's just set aside the system, and have a conversation about our greatest needs as a society, and come together around a purpose we can all believe in, and then just have this, like, just dream, like, what would education look like if we were working toward that purpose? So it's not that everything in education is wrong, but it's just too easy to just make these little tweaks and do things the way they've always been done, when in reality, we could create this whole new system that is more conducive to students and society getting to where we want them to get to.
Okay. Now, before we go, I want to throw this question out there to you that I did not share before.
Oh, perfect.
All right. Our educational system, and when you hear politicians and you hear superintendents and you can hear principals and you hear parents and uh, people in Silicon Valley and everyone talking about how our educational system needs to look a certain way, it needs to function a certain way, discounting the fact that here's the reality. Not every student has the same interests,
Right.
same aptitude,
Right.
nor the same uh, preparation to end at the same starting point.
Right.
And being that that is just a reality,
Yep.
what do we need to do with public education? And I say this because, you know, you look at a lot of schools and what was considered VOTEC is gone.
Sure.
Certain other programs, and I mean, there are students who they may score a 32 on the ACT, but if you say, hey, you know, you can go to all these colleges with full scholarship, and they say, dude, I'm going to Culinary Arts Institute. I love cooking.
Sure.
But we don't value that as a success. Schools like to say our certain percentage of students graduated and went on to be admitted to research one university level schools. They don't like to talk
Sure.
about the trade schools or these
Right.
these academic institutes. Knowing all of that, and you talk about your revolution, what
Sure.
should the public education look like?
Well, I think after doing the research I did, um, and doing a lot of reflection the last year, um, I honestly think that schools should be as much about, if not more about, the acquisition of purpose and passion as they are academics. And I think that we should measure students' feelings of purpose and passion, because I imagine a world where our 12th graders go out into the world and they may not have the same level of proficiency as each other in math and reading and writing and various core subjects, but they all have a certain level, a certain standard of passion that they have found through public education, a certain level of purpose that they know what they care about, they know um, what their strengths are and what they can offer to the world, and they're excited about what they have to offer. If we could have them reach a certain level of proficiency in that area, I can't even imagine what society would look like. I can't imagine how different it would be. So I know it sounds kind of pie in the sky, but when I did my research into successful organizations, that is the commonality. When you look at successful people, that is the commonality. So academic achievement is not the commonality among successful businesses or successful people. It's this idea of giving back, of having this feeling of purpose and something to offer beyond yourself, and feeling passionate about the work you do. So if we can get students excited about what they have to offer the world, then I think that we are more than halfway there in terms of where we need to get as a society, economically, socially, civics. So I think we may our laser-like focus on academic achievement in this country may have become tunnel vision, and we need to expand that to embrace the soft sciences a little bit, and realize that we can ask students how they're doing, and we have a lot to gain by listening to them. And we give them all these assessments, formative and summative assessments, and try to figure out how they're doing in school, but we never ask them, like, how are you doing? Are you feeling passionate about your education? Are you feeling passionate about uh, post high? Are you feeling like you understand your strengths and what you have to offer the world? And if we could just talk to students and ask them and help them harness their passions and pursue their purpose, I think that we would make a lot more ground than just by having this kind of laser-like focus on academic achievement in the core subject areas.
Awesome, awesome. People, it's Dr. Fast.
Thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Will.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It's funny because I'm not really, big on titles. I mean, I use it on Twitter and all that stuff because trying to brand myself,
Sure.
you know. But at school, I really don't care. But because my last name is Deyamport, Dr. Will is a lot easier to say for some people.
Sure.
People, thank you for watching the show. Again, I have some more hot episodes coming. I told you it's going to be like fire this year, 2016, with the show. And again, thank you, Dr. Fast, for being a guest. And as always, people, be you, edu, peace.